For centuries, we've been taught that Eve was the very first woman created by God. But what if I told you that there's an ancient secret buried deep in the Bible, hidden in forgotten texts and ancient myths? That tells a different story? In today's video, we'll uncover the shocking truth about Lilith, a mysterious figure who may have been the real first woman, long before Eve. Her story was deliberately erased, shrouded in secrecy, and her name cast out of the scriptures. Who was she? Why was her story hidden? And what does this ancient mystery reveal about the creation of humanity, the spiritual battle between good and evil, and even the end times prophecy? Stay with us until the end, because we'll be diving into rare archaeological discoveries, exploring lost Jewish texts, and connecting hidden prophetic messages that most Christians have never heard before. If you think you know the Bible's creation story, think again. This is the untold truth that could challenge everything you've been taught. Before we get started, let us know in the comments, have you ever heard of Lilith? Do you believe there could be more to the creation story than what we've been told? Share your thoughts, and let's dive deep into this ancient mystery together. If you're excited to uncover hidden truths and explore the mysteries of the Bible, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more eye-opening content. And please, share this video with your friends and family so they too can join us on this journey of discovery. Let's dive in. Let's begin with a familiar account most of us know, the biblical story of Adam and Eve. This story is found in the opening chapters of the book of Genesis, which sets the stage for the entire narrative of the Bible. It is the story of the first humans, created by God, to live in harmony with Him and the world He created. In Genesis chapter 1, we read the first mention of human creation. The Bible states, "So God created man in His own image. In the image of God He created him. Male and female He created them." Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. Here, the word man is translated from the Hebrew word Adam, which can mean mankind or humanity. This verse implies that both male and female were created together in God's image, sharing equal status and dignity. This creation narrative is broad and poetic, emphasizing the divine act of making humans as reflections of God's own character. This raises an interesting question. If both male and female were created simultaneously in Genesis chapter 1, why does Genesis chapter 2 give us a different, more detailed account? Genesis chapter 2 provides a more specific and detailed narrative of creation. It describes how God formed Adam from the dust of the ground, breathing into him the breath of life. Genesis chapter 2 verse 7 states, "Then the Lord God formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And the man became a living being." After creating Adam, God placed him in the Garden of Eden, a paradise filled with everything he needed to thrive. However, God soon noticed that Adam was alone, and it was not good for him to remain this way. In Genesis chapter 2 verse 18, God says, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." God caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep, and from his rib he fashioned Eve, the first woman. This act of creation has been interpreted as a symbol of unity and partnership, as Eve was formed from Adam's side, not his head or feet, signifying equality and companionship. The traditional story of Adam and Eve has been taught for centuries as the foundation of humanity's origin. It's a narrative of creation, partnership, and the first human experience in paradise. This story also sets the stage for the fall of humanity through disobedience, leading to the expulsion from the Garden of Eden, which is seen as the beginning of human sin and separation from God. This account has shaped the understanding of human nature, gender roles, and the relationship between men and women in many cultures around the world. The idea of Eve being formed from Adam's rib has often been interpreted to mean that she was created as a companion, equal yet distinct from Adam. However, a closer examination of the text, especially in its original Hebrew, raises intriguing questions. For instance, why does Genesis chapter 1 suggest that male and female were created together, while Genesis chapter 2 gives a different sequence of events? Is it possible that there was another woman created before Eve, one who has been overlooked or intentionally omitted from the traditional narrative. Some scholars suggest that the dual creation accounts in Genesis could point to a deeper, hidden narrative. The difference between Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2 has sparked debates for centuries. Why do we have two distinct descriptions of the creation of humans? One possibility is that Genesis chapter 1 describes the creation of a primordial pair, male and female created simultaneously, while Genesis chapter 2 provides a more focused account, zooming in on Adam and Eve's story specifically. This discrepancy has led to various interpretations throughout history. One of the most intriguing theories is the existence of a woman before Eve. Could the simultaneous creation of male and female in Genesis chapter 1 hint at another woman who existed before Eve, a figure who was removed or forgotten in the traditional narrative? This is where the mystery deepens. Ancient Jewish texts and folklore suggest that there may have been another woman, known as Lilith, who was created as Adam's equal but rejected her role, leading to her removal from the story and the subsequent creation of Eve. The traditional story of Adam and Eve is well known, but it may not be the full story. The existence of ancient myths and legends about a figure like Lilith suggests that there might be more to the creation narrative than what we see in the canonical Bible. Lilith's story is not part of the official biblical text, but it has persisted in folklore, ancient writings, and even archaeology. So, was Eve truly the first woman, or is there an untold chapter in the creation story that challenges what we think we know? The answer lies in exploring ancient texts, archaeological evidence, and the mysteries hidden between the lines of Scripture. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into the ancient Hebrew texts and the clues they might hold about the existence of a woman before Eve. Stay with us as we uncover the hidden story that could change our understanding of the Bible's creation narrative forever. If we want to unlock the deeper mysteries of the creation story, we need to look closely at the original Hebrew texts of Genesis. Often, the translations we read today don't capture the nuances of the ancient language, which can obscure key details and lead to misunderstandings. So, let's go back to the Hebrew and examine what it really says. In the first chapter of Genesis, the term used for man is Adam. However, the word Adam in Hebrew does not strictly refer to a male individual. Instead, it is a general term that can mean human, mankind, or humankind. This broader meaning suggests that the text might be referring to the creation of both male and female together as part of humanity, rather than a specific man named Adam. In Genesis chapter 1 verses 26 to 27, we read, "Then God said, 'Let us make man Adam in our image, according to our likeness.' So God created man Adam in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them." Notice that the creation of Adam is immediately followed by the mention of male and female. The original Hebrew text uses the phrase zakar and nekeba, which means male and female, rather than referring to a specific man named Adam and a woman named Eve. This suggests that God created male and female humans together, at the same time, as part of the collective Adam. The two creation accounts in Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2, appear to offer different timelines. In Genesis chapter 1, the creation of male and female is described as a simultaneous event. But in Genesis chapter 2, we get a more detailed story where Adam is created first, followed by the formation of Eve from Adam's rib. This apparent discrepancy has puzzled scholars and theologians for centuries. Many biblical scholars believe that Genesis 1 presents a poetic, overarching view of creation, while Genesis chapter 2 zooms in on the specific creation of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. However, the differences between these accounts have led some to question whether Genesis chapter 1 is referring to a separate creation of a different woman, one who existed before Eve. One of the most intriguing theories arising from this discrepancy is the existence of a woman named Lilith, who is thought to be the first female created alongside Adam in Genesis chapter 1. While Lilith is not mentioned by name in the canonical Bible, She appears in various ancient Jewish texts and folklore. The earliest references to Lilith can be found in the Midrash and the alphabet of Ben Sira, Jewish writings from the early centuries CE. According to these texts, Lilith was created as an equal to Adam, formed from the same dust of the earth. However, Lilith's story takes a dramatic turn when she refuses to submit to Adam's authority, asserting her equality and independence. In Genesis, chapter 1, verse 27, the phrase male and female he created them is significant. The use of the plural them suggests the simultaneous creation of a pair. In the original Hebrew, the structure of this sentence implies that God created two distinct beings at the same time, not just one man and then a woman later. The traditional interpretation is that this verse refers to Adam and Eve together, but this interpretation does not fully account for the chronological difference between Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2. If male and female were created together in Genesis chapter 1, why would there need to be a separate creation of Eve in Genesis chapter 2? In Genesis chapter 2 verse 18 we read, "The Lord God said, 'It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him.'" The word helper in Hebrew is Ezer, which is often misunderstood. Ezer does not imply subordination, rather, it is a term used throughout the Bible to describe God as a helper and deliverer. This suggests that Eve was created as an equal partner, not a subordinate. But if Genesis chapter 1 already described the creation of male and female, why was there a need for God to create a separate helper in Genesis chapter 2? This inconsistency has led some scholars to propose that the helper created in Genesis chapter 2 was not the first woman, but rather a replacement for a previous woman, Lilith, who had already departed from Adam due to their conflict. If Lilith was indeed the first woman, this would have profound implications for our understanding of the Genesis narrative. It would suggest that there was an earlier creation of a female figure who was equal to Adam, but rejected traditional gender roles, leading to her exclusion from the biblical story. This could explain why a second woman, Eve, was created as a helper for Adam, replacing the rebellious Lilith. The existence of Lilith as a pre-Eve woman challenges the traditional view of the Genesis story and opens up new interpretations about the roles of women, gender dynamics, and the complexities of early human relationships as described in ancient texts. In the next part, we will dive deeper into the story of Lilith, exploring her origins in Jewish folklore, her depiction in ancient mythologies, and the archaeological evidence that might support her existence. Stay with us as we continue to unravel this ancient mystery and reveal the secrets of the woman who may have been forgotten by history. The story of Lilith is one of the most mysterious and controversial in ancient Jewish folklore. Her name is not mentioned in the canonical Bible, but she appears in a variety of early Jewish writings, including the Midrash, the alphabet of Ben Sira, and other mystical texts like the Zohar. Over time, Lilith has become a symbol of independence, rebellion, and the dark, untold stories of the Bible. The earliest references to Lilith depict her as the very first woman created by God, fashioned at the same time as Adam, rather than from his rib like Eve. This idea comes from the Midrash, a collection of ancient Jewish interpretations and commentaries on the Bible. According to these texts, Lilith was formed from the same dust as Adam, making her his equal in every way. However, the story takes a dramatic turn when conflict arises between Lilith and Adam. The legend says that Lilith refused to submit to Adam, particularly in matters of dominance and authority. When Adam attempted to assert control over her, Lilith, feeling disrespected and treated unfairly, uttered the divine name of God and flew away from the Garden of Eden. She chose her own freedom and independence over submission, a decision that would forever change her fate. This conflict between Lilith and Adam highlights a significant theme: the struggle for equality and autonomy. Unlike Eve, who was created as a helper for Adam, Lilith was created as an equal partner. Her refusal to be subordinate was seen as rebellious, and her departure from Eden marked the beginning of her transformation into a figure of myth and legend. One of the most detailed accounts of Lilith's story comes from the alphabet of Ben Sira, a medieval Jewish text written around the 8th or 9th century CE. While this text is not part of the biblical canon, it provides a fascinating glimpse into Jewish folklore and mystical traditions. In the alphabet of Ben Sira, we find the full tale of Lilith's creation and departure. According to the text, after leaving the Garden of Eden, Lilith settled by the Red Sea, where she was believed to have consorted with demons and became the mother of demonic offspring known as the Lilith. When God sent 3 angels, Senoi, Sansonoi, and Semangaloth, to bring her back, Lilith refused. She argued that she would rather be left alone than return to a life of subservience. Lilith's refusal to return to Eden and her choice to live independently by the Red Sea cemented her role in Jewish folklore as a symbol of rebellion and defiance. Her association with demons and the supernatural only grew stronger, and she became a figure of fear and intrigue. Interestingly, the legend of Lilith might not be limited to Jewish folklore. There are striking similarities between Lilith and figures from ancient Mesopotamian mythology. In early Sumerian and Babylonian writings, there are references to a female spirit named Lilitu, who was associated with the wind and the night. Lilitu was often depicted as a powerful, independent woman who wandered freely, refusing to be controlled by men. Some scholars believe that the Jewish Lilith is a later adaptation of the Sumerian Lilitu. The connection between these figures suggests a shared cultural myth of a strong, autonomous female who challenged the traditional gender roles of the time. In the ancient world, such a woman was often feared and demonized, leading to her portrayal as a dangerous seductress or a night demon. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, a famous Mesopotamian epic, there is a reference to a demonic figure residing in the hulupu tree, often associated with Lilith. This character is described as a bird-like creature who dwells in the darkness, reinforcing the image of Lilith as a nocturnal spirit. Although Lilith's name does not appear in most translations of the Bible, there is a cryptic reference in Isaiah, chapter 34, verse 14, that has sparked considerable debate among scholars. The verse reads, "The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the screech owl, Lilith, shall rest there." In the original Hebrew text, the word used is Lilith, which bears a striking resemblance to the name Lilith. Many English translations render this word as screech owl or night creature, but the Hebrew term has deeper connotations. It is associated with darkness, desolation, and the supernatural, aligning with the mythological portrayal of Lilith as a night demon or a spirit of the wind. Some biblical scholars argue that this verse is a veiled reference to the mythological figure of Lilith. In the context of Isaiah, chapter 34, the passage describes a scene of utter desolation and chaos, a fitting environment for a creature like Lilith, who is often depicted as dwelling in the wilderness. This connection suggests that the authors of Isaiah might have been aware of the Lilith legend, incorporating her into a prophetic vision of desolation and judgment. The story of Lilith did not end with her departure from Eden. Over time, her character underwent significant transformation in Jewish folklore and mystical traditions. While she began as an equal partner to Adam, Lilith was later portrayed as a demoness, a seductress, and a mother of demons. In the Zohar, a foundational text of Jewish mysticism, Lilith is described as the first Eve, who was cast out for her disobedience. This transformation from a strong, independent woman to a demonic figure reflects broader societal views on female autonomy and rebellion. In a patriarchal society, a woman who refused to submit to male authority was seen as a threat. By portraying Lilith as a demon, ancient writers may have been attempting to warn against the dangers of female independence and sexuality. In modern times, the figure of Lilith has been reinterpreted as a symbol of feminine power and resistance. Feminist scholars and writers have embraced Lilith as a representation of a woman who refused to be controlled and chose her own path, even if it meant becoming an outcast. Her story has become a powerful symbol of the struggle for gender equality, challenging traditional narratives that portray women as submissive or secondary. The legend of Lilith forces us to reconsider the traditional story of creation and the roles assigned to women in ancient texts. Was she a demon, a rebellious spirit, or simply a strong woman who refused to conform? The answer may depend on the perspective from which we view her story. Whether viewed as a demon, a goddess, or a feminist icon, Lilith's story has endured for thousands of years. Her narrative offers a glimpse into the ancient world's understanding of gender, power, and the complexities of human relationships. The legend of Lilith invites us to look beyond the surface of the biblical text and explore the rich tapestry of myths and traditions that shaped our earliest beliefs. In the next section, we will explore the archaeological evidence that may support the existence of a pre-Eve woman, and how ancient artifacts could shed light on this forgotten chapter of human history. Stay with us as we continue to uncover the mysteries of the first woman who defied convention. To understand the deeper origins of Lilith, we must turn to the archaeological findings from ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. Long before the Bible was written, the peoples of Sumer, Akkad, and Babylon told stories of powerful, independent female spirits that bear a striking resemblance to the later Jewish folklore figure of Lilith. These discoveries offer tantalizing clues that Lilith's story may have roots in ancient mythology, extending far back into the dawn of recorded history. Archaeologists have unearthed numerous clay tablets from ancient Sumer, dating back as far as 2000s BCE, that mention a figure known as Lilitu. The name Lilitu closely resembles Lilith, and the descriptions of this figure bear uncanny similarities to the later Jewish myths. In these early texts, Lilitu is portrayed as a female demon or spirit associated with the night and the wind. She was believed to roam the wilderness, haunting desolate places and preying upon men. The Sumerians described Lilitu as a seductive and dangerous spirit, embodying both beauty and power. Unlike many female figures of the time, who were depicted as submissive or nurturing, Lilitu was fiercely independent. She was known to act on her own desires and was not beholden to any male authority, a characteristic that mirrors the rebellious nature of Lilith in Jewish folklore. The Sumerian myths portray Lilitu as a goddess of the wind, an association that underscores her untamed and free-spirited nature. In ancient Near Eastern cultures, the wind was seen as a powerful, uncontrollable force, much like the spirit of Lilitu herself. This imagery may have influenced the later Jewish depiction of Lilith as a spirit who could not be contained. Additionally, the Burney relief, a 4,000-year-old Mesopotamian artifact, shows a female figure with bird-like talons and wings, believed by some scholars to represent Lilith. This artifact suggests that the concept of a powerful pre-Eve woman was known in ancient Mesopotamian cultures long before the biblical narrative was written. If Lilith was indeed created as the first woman, equal to Adam, then why is she absent from the traditional biblical narrative? To answer this question, we need to look beyond the canonical Bible and delve into the apocryphal texts, ancient writings, and hidden manuscripts that were excluded from the official biblical canon. These texts may hold the key to uncovering the lost story of Lilith and the early beliefs that shaped our understanding of creation. One theory is that the story of Lilith was deliberately excluded or altered during the compilation of the Bible. The process of canonization, where certain texts were chosen for inclusion while others were left out, was influenced by theological, cultural, and political factors. The early church fathers and Jewish rabbis who decided the contents of the Bible may have deemed the story of Lilith too controversial or too challenging to the emerging patriarchal norms of society. Lilith's defiance of Adam and her refusal to conform to traditional gender roles presented a problem for a narrative that emphasized male authority and female subservience. By omitting her story, the compilers of the biblical texts could present a simpler and more consistent account of creation, where Eve is the first and only woman, created as a helper for Adam. This omission may have been part of a broader effort to suppress stories and traditions that did not align with the emerging orthodox views of gender and family. The narrative of a rebellious first woman who refused to submit to her husband could have been seen as a threat to the social order, leading to the exclusion of her story from the official biblical texts. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in the 1940s revolutionized our understanding of the ancient biblical world. These scrolls, found in the Qumran caves near the Dead Sea, date back to the 2nd century BCE and contain some of the oldest known copies of biblical and extra-biblical texts. Among these writings are fragments that hint at stories and figures not found in the canonical Bible, including possible references to a figure resembling Lilith. One of the most intriguing documents among the Dead Sea Scrolls is the Genesis Apocryphon, a retelling of the Genesis story with additional details not found in the traditional biblical text. In this rewritten account, there are cryptic references to a conflict between a first wife and Adam, which some scholars interpret as an allusion to Lilith. The fragments describe a woman who was created with Adam but later left him due to disagreements, aligning with the legend of Lilith's departure from the Garden of Eden. These fragments are incomplete and difficult to interpret, but they suggest that early Jewish communities may have been familiar with alternative creation narratives, including the story of a first wife who was not Eve. The fact that such stories were included in the Dead Sea Scrolls, a collection of texts considered sacred by the Qumran community, indicates that the legend of Lilith was more widely known and accepted in certain circles than previously thought. The Book of Enoch, part of the apocryphal and pseudepigraphal texts, provides another glimpse into the ancient beliefs surrounding supernatural beings. Although not included in the canonical Bible, the Book of Enoch was highly regarded in early Jewish and Christian communities. It contains detailed descriptions of fallen angels, demons, and other supernatural entities, offering a fascinating insight into the mythology of the time. In the Book of Enoch, we find references to night spirits and demonic figures that align with the description of Lilith. The text describes beings who wander the earth, seeking to cause harm and disrupt the natural order. While Lilith is not named explicitly, the imagery is reminiscent of her role as a spirit who preys on the vulnerable, particularly during the night. The Book of Enoch also introduces the concept of the Watchers, fallen angels who rebelled against God and took human wives, leading to the birth of the Nephilim. Some scholars draw parallels between these rebellious figures and the legend of Lilith, suggesting that her defiance against divine order places her in a similar category as the Watchers, beings who challenged the established norms and were cast out as a result. The exclusion of Lilith's story from the canonical Bible may reflect the influence of patriarchal norms in ancient society. As Jewish and Christian communities solidified their beliefs and established orthodox teachings, the portrayal of women in religious texts became more conservative. Stories of powerful, independent women like Lilith, who refused to conform to traditional gender roles, may have been seen as disruptive to the emerging social order. By omitting or demonizing such figures, the early compilers of the Bible could promote a narrative that emphasized male authority and female submission. The transformation of Lilith from a possible equal partner to a demonic figure is part of this broader trend, reflecting the cultural shift towards a more patriarchal worldview. The biblical clues and apocryphal texts paint a complex picture of a figure who may have been erased from the official narrative but persisted in the shadows of folklore and legend. Lilith's story, though hidden, continued to influence religious beliefs and cultural traditions, offering a glimpse into a lost chapter of the creation story. In conclusion, the story of Lilith, whether myth or hidden history, invites us to dig deeper into the Bible and ancient texts. It challenges us to question what we've been taught and explore the possibility that there's more to the story of creation than meets the eye. So, was Eve really the first woman? The answer might depend on where you look and how open you are to exploring ancient mysteries. Whether you believe in the legend of Lilith or see it as a symbolic story, one thing is clear: the history of humanity is far richer and more complex than we've been led to believe. If you found this topic intriguing, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment below with your thoughts. Do you believe Lilith was the first woman? What other ancient mysteries would you like us to explore? Let us know, and we'll see you in the next video.